Welcome back to another episode of the Casey Campbell podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course. Pleased to be joined by Tyler Wellman, and of course, the head football coach at Midland. How's it going?
It's going well. How are you?
I'm doing good. So before we get into how the summer's been going, of course, this is your first year at Midland. So I must ask, like, what intrigued you to take this job?
Yeah, I mean, I was in a great situation at Powers. A lot of great people there, great program. And I didn't even know the Midland job was open. I'm not really plugged into a lot of like openings. I didn't even like I'm very new to high school athletics, so I don't even know where you'd even look for these sorts of things. You know what I mean? And it was just brought to my attention that it was open and there was, so like once I knew it was open, it was something that, going back to when I was in college at Wellman College and even coaching there and recruiting, Midland was always a school that I held in high regard just because of the people I knew that graduated from there, and obviously working with the recruiting process with Coach Met. It was with the resources, facilities, proximity to where I live. It was just kind of made it a no-brainer for something to pursue. And fortunately, I got the call. I was the guy, and kind of hit the ground running ever since. So
Yeah. Okay, so I must ask, like, what was it like just to get to know everybody, and then also just how was the summer for you? I know I'm not sure when you were hired or when you started, but really, what has it been like since you've taken this job?
yeah, so it was there was I got hired in mid-February, and I finished out my contract at Powers, and Coach Met he finished out the school year at Midland, so there was some back and forth, which was a little cumbersome, but it was made a lot easier in the process because there's just great people at Midland. Obviously, Coach Matt helped me out a ton, going through things on, process stuff that's worked in the past, how, just it's simple things like where's the equipment room? You know what I mean? And like, here's who we order from. Here's been our schedule of things that have been going on for, 20, 30, sometimes 40 years, different traditions that have been in place. And then also having outstanding assistant coaches that were wanted to stay around, and those a lot of those guys, they're amazing assistant coaches because they're really tuned into the kids, because at the end of the day, your players and student athletes, that's what matters the most. So like being able to lean on those guys and our team moms and our administration at Midland High was really, really, really crucial to make sure that messaging was getting out, that if I work 45 minutes south of where I live in Saginaw, and that Midland's 20 minutes northwest, it's really difficult to get there and still be a dad and do all those things. But having good assistants, having good people in place, a lot of that kind of they took care of a lot of those things. And then Midland's school schedule got done a week earlier, and I was still, so our summer really started Midland High, and the head football coach wasn't there and didn't skip a beat. So, so there was an entire week where workouts were going on. I'm getting updates. I'm kind of, if you're a football coach, you're a control freak to a certain extent. So I'm just texting every coach, how's it going? Do we have good attendance? Work ethic. And finally, I got one on Tuesdays, like from one of the assistants, like, yeah, relax, like everything's going really well. We got it. So that kind of put me at ease that that was the case. So, but yeah. So, and then the rest of the summer's gone great. I mean, having 8 weeks of summer on our school schedule is outstanding. So the guys are in tremendous shape. They're picking up football. They're understanding what we're doing, and just excited for Monday.
Yeah. All right. Well, now let's talk about some of the guys that will be returning for your team this year and some of the names to watch. Let's start with the offense, then we'll go with the defense, and then special teams.
Yeah, absolutely. So offensively, in the offensive line, we've got a lot. Like, this is very upperclassmen heavy, which is good, and heavy too, which is a good thing for the offensive line. When you start talking about Max Decker, who's a returning starter, plenty of varsity starts, and has done an outstanding job as a leader for us, and done an amazing job of really like taking ownership in his strength conditioning progress. He's gonna be our left tackle, which should be no surprise to anybody that follows Chemic football. And then finishing out the offensive line, we have another senior, with Steger, Charlie Saban at center, and then really the right side of our offensive line. We've got some position battles because we really have 6 offensive linemen at this point. That we feel like could start for us. We got some other guys that had really good summers and can definitely close the gap during camp. But having Eamon Murray and Elijah Davis, 2 guys that are juniors, and then another senior, and Caden Nieto, who started at guard for us this past year. Definitely, we're going to have 3-4 seniors playing a ton on the offensive line all the time, and then managing their reps because, as like in high school football, your best players have to be on the field, but you don't want 2-way players. But there's going to be times where you're going to have to play guys 2 ways. So we're going to try to limit that as possible and keep guys fresh by playing, as many offensive linemen as we have. And that's a luxury we have. And then, one of the people, there was an offensive lineman last year, but since we have, a good group of offensive linemen, we're actually transitioning him to tight end is Brett Fascio, who's, an incredible athlete. He's committed to pitch at Yale. And, he's, playing that one of our tight end positions is, going to be a great forward. Anytime you have a former offensive lineman that can also catch, it's kind of what you're looking for there. And then skill position wise, I mean, we've got a lot of guys that can play a lot of different positions on offense. So, I mean, we got 2 Noahs. I mean, Noah Wall and Noah Greatcheck. They're both going to get reps in the backfield. We can move Noah Wall around kind of as a Swiss Army knife. He could be a touchdown anytime those guys touch the ball. So we're going to want to make sure that my job is calling plays, is making sure those guys can, get in positions to get some meaningful touches. And then when you're looking at again at the wide receiver position, Liam Hines is a returning senior, and then we have a few other guys too that are younger guys. Cooper Cummings, Max Hubble, Wilson Kloa. I mean, those are guys that had tremendous summers. I mean, the hardest thing when it comes to football is learning a new offense, and especially in the passing game. And but there's only so many concepts in football. The problem is the guys run into is like, what do you like? Learning a new language is the biggest thing because everybody knows how to run, a hitch, but like, how do we call that in our terminology? And they picked it up tremendously. And then Eli Kell is front runner right now to be the guy behind center, and I'm kind of tailoring things to what he's good at and strong suits, and that's the same for the entire offense. Is you got to take all these pieces and put them together and figure out what everybody's good at and how that meshes, and having a good plan to make sure that we're successful. So,
all right, let's go to the defense now.
Yeah, having again two seniors, in the middle, at linebacker with Coulter Mahabir and Zach Bushlin. Those 2 guys are pretty talented and obviously committed to the weight room like everybody else. So making sure that we can keep those guys clean and they can see it and they can fit it and they can do the things that linebackers do, which is make life a nightmare for opposing offenses. Defensively, too, on the defensive line, with we're going to have some of our offensive linemen are going to at times spell the defensive line too. And, big message in our program is we don't have 1-way players. We might have 1.5-way players and very few 2-way players, but everybody's going to have to learn a defensive position. But I mean, Evan Woodruff, and then, Van Horn, Weaver, those guys are all seniors. They're all committed to what we're doing and have done an incredible job this summer. And in the back end too, we've got some interchangeable pieces. AJ McVitie, Matt Wenzel, Craig Hurst, you know, and then Elijah Campbell too, like some guys that can kind of play those in between positions that might be a safety, might be an outside linebacker. Um, you know, some of these guys too, I mentioned at receiver can also play corner or receiver. So like we have plenty of skilled talent that's willing to block and tackle. So like we can put those pieces together on defense as we get through training camp. So
All right. Let's go to special teams.
special teams, yeah. Very, very rarely in high school football do you have somebody that's just a punter. So having a Renaissance man and Zach Bushland, who's gone to a lot of kicking camps to better himself as a punter, and then also start at linebacker and also play a little bit of running back for us. He's gonna be pretty crucial. Obviously the game plan isn't to play to punt, but when you have to punt, every offensive coach and every head coach in America would love it if you never had to punt, but you're going to have to do it eventually. Really relishes the role and does an incredible job. And then when we start talking about kicker, Zach Steger, we really haven't done a whole lot with the kickoff team yet, but he can put the ball where we need it, and based on film and what we're doing, and just hopefully we're kicking off more than we're punting this year. So
for sure. All right. Okay, now we've talked about all the kids. Now let's talk about the other big thing, the schedule. So of course, I'll just run through it really quick. August 29th kicks off the season, home against Cadillac. September 6th at Portage Northern. September 13th at Bay City Western. September 20th at home against Bay City Central. September 27th, home against Traverse City West. October 4th at Traverse City Central. October 11th at Saginaw Heritage. October 18th, home against Mount Pleasant. And October 25th, the last game of the regular season, home against Midland Dow. So, pretty good schedule, a really tough division. How excited are you to play these teams?
Incredibly excited. I mean, there's no gimmies in the SVL, like not a single one. It's not a top heavy. There's no middle class. Obviously, as the record shakes out year to year, there's going to be, not everybody can finish 9-0 because everybody plays each other. But it's an exciting challenge. And we start to, look at, our non-conference we put together. I mean, Cadillac's a heck of a ball club too, and we got them week 1. Portage Northern, to be honest with you, haven't looked too far in advance because we've just been getting our own team ready and kind of peeking at Cadillac here and there from last year. But there's no layups on the schedule at all. And it's we start talking, if any SVL team makes it through the conference and finishes with a really good record, it's got a good chance to understand what it takes to win playoff games in October, November, because it's a gauntlet every week in this conference. And hyper local, hyper competitive. Schedule doesn't matter when you're playing a lot of teams. I mean, not to focus on one game, but we got Dow being in town and being one of the biggest rivalries in the state. Record doesn't matter there. When we're playing teams from Saginaw and Bay City and Mount Pleasant and everything, the way the world is now, the world's a lot smaller because of the internet and social media. So it's not like when I was in high school 20 years ago where you're playing a team that's 40 miles away and you don't even know who's on the roster. Like, these kids know each other and it means a lot. And the schools have great rivalries, and I'm just really excited to be a part of it and lead this team through the schedule. So
yeah. Okay, so what are the next few weeks going to look like for you guys? I know the fun starts on the 12th, but
Yeah.
of course you got the scrimmage as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna our training camp this year. I mean, we start on Monday. We're gonna, just to continue. We're not starting over, but it's just a continuation of our summer. We've had incredible attendance, so I feel farther ahead than I've ever been as a coach at this point to the Division III level. Um, you're not allowed any football after spring ball, so those guys essentially you have a summer, and then that ends in April, and then they don't do any football again until August, which you know human nature, you're not going to retain everything over 3 months. Um, but like, once we start, I feel very confident that we can continue to refine and add anything that we need to as a program. And also, the big thing in training camp is like guys have put in the work. Um, we're going to continue to work, but like monitoring the load that we're putting on, our guys as far as, how much contact we're having, what kind of contact it looks like, whatever it might be, to make sure like we're not going to go full junction boys just to do it. We're going to make sure that our guys, are getting to week 1 against Cadillac. And, there's been a long tradition of scrimmaging Fenton High School with Midland, and we're going to continue with that. It's a great scrimmage, very competitive program. So we're excited to do that, and then get things rolling a few days later, prepping for Cadillac.
Absolutely. All right. Well,
Yep.
Tyler Wellman, thank you so much for the time as always, and best of luck to the Chemics this coming season.
Thank you, and thank you for having me, and thank you for everything you're doing for high school sports and the athletes.